Let's be honest, we all want to make more money when we're reselling or whether we're flipping or if we're running a small business. And usually the more profit, the better we feel. But what if I told you, and hear me out, that focusing on profit isn't always the answer? Yes, we need to make an overall profit to keep the lights on, to support our livelihoods and, obviously pay for our lifestyle. But at the end of the day, big profits overall won't come if you're too attached to margins, if you're too attached to the item, or if you're too attached to money. That is the topic today, how to make more money when big profit isn't the key. What's going on, folks? Welcome back to the channel. Really do appreciate being here. If you are new here, my name's Chris and I'm building a business that suits my lifestyle. Now, as I just said, in this episode, we are talking about the whole conversation around, do we need to be making big profits? Is big profit the answer? Should I be spending too much time on making sure I'm making so much profit? Really, we're just talking about profit and how you can actually change your mindset around this to help you make a little bit more money when reselling or flipping on the side, or if you're doing this as a full-time gig as a small business. Now, if you do stick around to the end, I will also share my weekly progress, how things have been progressing in the business, and also some behind the scenes. So let's dive in. Now, I do go on about this like a broken record, probably over the last couple of weeks, and we have been diving into some of the really hot topics and some of the questions that you guys have been asking me, but some of the things that we deal with on a daily basis when it comes to selling online and predominantly on eBay. Now, we are in this business, whether it's reselling, whether it's flipping, small business, for a purpose, and that is to make money. We've covered that. We understand that. You know that. And if you don't think that's the reason, then let's be honest, because how do you feel? How do you react when you're not making the profit, when you're not hitting the bigger amount of revenue, when someone's lowballing you an offer? We spoke about lowball offers last week. Now, if I was to ask you right now, what profit are you trying to make? How would you answer the question? Now, you can chuck this down in the comments if you would like, but are you focusing on profit per sale? Are you focusing on a rolling average across the line at the end of the day, like a net profit? Like how much are you landing with at the end of the day, at the end of the week, at the end of the month? For example, and for some people, this is purely just a random number that I picked, you might want to be doing $20 profit per item, or it might be 10, or it might be 30, or it might be 5. Now, for some, it might actually be you want to make 200% return or 100%, so double your buy-in. Like if you spent $10, you might get $10 back into your pocket. So, you basically doubled your money. Now, one of my favorite things to mention on this topic, and we've spoken about it before, is do not sit around for an extra 30, 60, 90 days just to get an extra $5, $10, maybe even $20 when you could sell it today. Obviously, everyone's numbers are going to be a little different. I am being very generalized in this conversation. And it will come down to, depending on how much you paid for the item, how much the item owes you, how much is it really worth, not what you value at, but what someone else values it at. And that all does come into the conversation. But what I'm trying to say is like, if you've got an item and you're going to profit $10 and you're trying to get an extra $5 in revenue just because, you want to have a higher number and it's going to sit for an extra 30, an extra 60, an extra 90 days, it's just not worth it. Sell it. Now, of recent, I have been rethinking a lot of this conversation myself, just around business operations and how I'm operating. And yes, this is my opinion, so let me give you some context. Way back before I was reselling, actually it's only about 2.5 years ago, I was a project manager at a Fortune 500 company, a professional services company. And look, I was on a very savvy salary, very lush salary. Actually, it was quite good, and I would get that on a monthly basis. And I would take a certain amount each month and invest that into the stock market, knowing that in the long run, it would technically, hopefully pay off and I would get some nice returns and it will set me up for the long term. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the stock market, on average, if you've invested into the S&P 200 or the ASX 200 over the last 10 years, you would have made on average a return of around 9%. That's compounding dividend reinvestments and things like that. So this is very rough average numbers. Now, this is just one example, of course, and the past does not guarantee the future either. But I just wanted to give you some context that if you had invested money back then potentially you would have received a 9% return over the last 10 years. Now, if we look over the last year or so, we can see that bank rates have increased also, which is really good if you're saving money in the bank. At the moment, we're close to an average of 4.5%. Meaning if you've got some big dollars in the bank, you're going to actually get some pretty good consistent interest back into your bank each month. So if you had $10,000 today, assuming these numbers were to last over the next 10 years, now if you were to deposit an extra $500 each month over the next 12 months. Essentially, from this, you will earn an extra $519 in total interest. So you started with $10,000, you've got to invest basically $6,000 or $500 a month, and you're going to walk away with $519 extra in interest, leaving you with $16,519. Not too bad for just, being consistent and putting in the money in the bank. And then for the stock market, assuming you were receiving 9% per year, if you had put 10K in, you'll get an extra $900 back by the end of the year. Now, before I get to you where I'm going with this, let me explain one more thing. In the last year, the same ASX 200, basically the top 200 shares, if you were to put it into that index fund over the last year, it's only returned a negative 6.5%. And that's because we're going through some crazy times right now. And that's crazy. It's like a Jeepers moment. So let's say we're saving in the bank, we get 4% at the moment. If we were having the same run that we were getting over the last 10 years with the ASX 200, maybe we'd get 9%. And if we think short term, we're getting diddly squat. We're actually losing money having it in the stock market. Now, this video is not about you should be investing your money. You should be putting it in the stock market. You shouldn't be putting it in the stock market. How you invest is up to you. But where I want to take this is all these numbers that we've just spoken about is not set in stone, but now we need to apply this back to reselling. How does it play into the reselling world? What impact does it have? What does it have to do with it? Well, I'm glad you asked. It has to do with profits. If you're flipping on the side, or you're part-timing or you're full-timing, it doesn't really matter, to be honest. Now that we have an understanding of what are the numbers that we need to beat to ensure that our money is worth more than just sitting around in the bank or in the share market, it's not actually that much. If we add 4% plus 9%, and we also include minus 6.5%, the average of that is an average return of 2.1%. So in theory, if we're making more than 2.1% profit on an item, we're actually making more money than if our money was in the stock market or in the bank. From average perspective, this is a pure average. Now, again, I'm generalizing. So let's just actually bring it up a little bit. 2.1% is very, very little, and you're not really going to make any profit with 2.1%. So let's bring it up to 5%. Let's even the playing field a little bit. So for the purpose of this video and to continue on with this next part of the conversation, let's assume you're able to make a 5% profit on your reselling. So if an item costs $10, basically you're aiming for 50 cents return. Now, yes, I know that's crazy. No one can make a living off 50 cents. No, they can't. And I'm not saying you go out and buy $10 items and make 50 cents on them. It does not make sense. What I'm trying to give you is a perspective that helps you understand that if comes to it, push comes to shove, if we need to sell an item, we want to be aiming for 5% profit, because then we're beating the market. We're beating wherever else we would have had this money invested. But if you're getting 5% back, you're actually making so much more than where your money would have been if you hadn't put it into this whole reselling, flipping, or small business game. Now, this is where the kicker comes in. So this is the most important part of the video. So make sure you're listening. Now, when we apply this mentality with selling, we will make more money. That's the whole reason why I'm talking about it. Now, remember, over the last few weeks, I've been talking about the different quadrant, why people are buying, and they're based on a number of different things. Now, these are the quadrants I've been speaking about. I do have more details on this, but essentially, if we can buy items and sell them in the third quadrant, this is where you're potentially going to maximize your profit. That's where we should aim for. And I reckon you can likely, this is my own opinion, likely quadruple your money if you're able to put it into this quadrant. Because if you spend $10, I reckon you can make a minimum profit of $40. These are like your BOLO items, your collectible items, the stuff which, you can spend $1 and make $100 on it. And it doesn't happen very often, but that's the luxury of it. I then find as we move down to the second quadrant, we actually start to get less. We get even less when we move into quadrant 1, and we get the least amount of money in quadrant 4. And again, this is all my theory. This is my opinion. If you have items in quadrant 4, it's likely they are a bad buy. They're not in a market that's very huge, like it's a smaller niche. You've either paid too much, or it's not a fast seller, meaning not many people actually want to buy the item. Thus, you should do 3 things. Do not buy it again, get rid of it and sell it, and ideally make a minimum of 5% on it. Worst case, you just want to make your money back. And then thirdly is cull it if you can't sell it as a last resort, if you cannot get your money back. Point number 2 is the important piece here. If you're trying to move items, if you want to liquidate items, if you want to get items out of your store and they've been sitting around for 100 days, 200 days, 500 days, whatever it is that you're working with, then work on getting that 5% back, because you're actually being able to put your money to better use and you're not actually getting a loss, And it's going to work out better if you've had it in the savings or if you've had it in the stock market. So that's why we're aiming for 5%. I'm purely giving you this as an example to help you get a better return on your money. Now, I want to be very, very clear here. I'm not here to say you need to focus on getting 5% profit for every item and you'll win. That's not how it works. If you're just running at a 5% at such a small margin, it's not going to be able to be lucrative enough to be able to sustain as a business model. It just will not work. What I'm trying to say, if you're trying to move items, if you're trying to get cash flow, then this is probably something that you want to think about and consider of how you're moving items. Because even I know this, because I do it myself, is when we're trying to liquidate items, we still get attached to, no, I want to make a bit more money. I want to make a bit more money, or that profit isn't really high enough. But when you change the perspective, you're actually still making more money than if you had your money sitting in the bank account or if you had the money sitting in a stock investment. So it's actually not that bad. So again, some perspective. If an item is sitting around for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, at what point are you trying to move it quicker? Are you still trying to get 400% return? Are you still trying to get 200% return, 100% return? Heck, 50% return. Worst case, are you going for that 5%? Try not to settle at a loss, but if you have to, do take notes and lessons of why you've made a loss. As I said before, it was a bad buy. Was it a bad industry? Was it a bad niche? What are the reasons why it did not sell? And make sure you don't buy it again. Now, the final little factor that I want people to take away from this and to remember is that there's one other little factor that we tend to forget. When you sell an item, you are not just getting a profit, you're actually getting your cost of good initial investment back as well, which means you can now rinse and repeat the process. Ideally quicker, because you've got more money to be able to go out and buy with. You've got better buying power. For example, if you buy something for $10 and you're able to sell it for a certain amount of money and you profit $10, you now have $20 back into your pocket. You can actually go out and buy two $10 items and you can start to compound. You can actually start to make some really, really good progress with this, assuming the item sells. Now, if you only profit 50 cents, or in this case, 5%, yes, you still get $10.50 back into your pocket. No, you're not going to be able to double your money, but you can go out and try again and hopefully buy something a little bit better. Now, I believe, and I'll stand by this, that if you've only got 5% back, so you've got $10.50 back into your pocket, this is potentially worth infinitely more than if you have an item sitting around trying to make that extra 100% on it, that extra 50% on it, that extra 20% on it. Heck, more than that 5% mark on it, hopefully not a loss, because you're able to take that money and turn it into something that's going to return more money. And you can repeat that process over that 30, over that 60, over that 90, over whatever time period it is. Once you start to realize that we're able to turn money into more money and we can replicate that, and the quicker we can do it, you're on a road to compounding your money into basically a slingshot, meaning you're going to catapult yourself into having a lot more cash flow and a lot more money to be able to put back into work. At the end of the day, we are trying to beat the market, which, as I said, was 5%. And again, please do not take this video as, oh, I only need to make 5% as a profit to be able to, make more money. No, the point is move items that are not selling, try and beat the market, try not to make a loss, and move on. When you change that perspective, I guarantee if you had that money sitting anywhere else, you're not going to be getting that return. So you may as well settle on the worst case being 5% and still actually come out on top than if your money was somewhere else. I hope this does make sense for you. If you do have any questions or clarifications that are required, or you want to leave a comment about this, by all means, chuck them down below. I'm more than happy to continue the conversation. Let's jump into week 124. What has actually been selling for the week? Well, it's actually been another interesting week. Very lucrative. Look, it started off a bit slow. It has been a bit of a slow week in some sense, but I was able to move some items finally more later in the evenings, actually. That's when most people have been buying. Clothes have been the big winner for this week, along with jeans, electronics, DVDs as well. And then there's been a range of different things throughout the week as well, as you can see. In terms of some of the top items that have sold this week, 4 of the top items and some of the fun items, I just put these in for sharing. This is not all my items. These aren't necessarily all my best items either. But the best bolo for this week, and I actually got this from Hard Rubbish. I cannot believe it. Discs were immaculate. It was in really good condition. And that is E Street, the best of Mr. Bad. Now, I actually learnt this one from two Aussie thrifters. I knew nothing about it. I think they did a video on this about 6-7 weeks ago in their new DVD store. It's a really good series. So I paid $0 for this, and I was able to sell it for $109.70. And the profit after this was $83.42, which is just crazy for a DVD. It was 5 discs though. Top item number 2 for this week was this vintage North Face yellow down puffer button snap. Now this thing looks like a life jacket. It only lasted for about not even 2 hours, I think. I've paid $13.18 for this one. Been able to sell it for $134.49. That's gone all the way over to the US. So they have paid up for postage on this one. $80.38 profit back into my pocket after fees and postage. The next one was this Legend of Zelda, and this one actually only sold last night, was a 1,000-piece premium puzzle. Box was damaged. Did pay $1.05 for this. That's an average cost of good from the lot that I got it in. Been able to sell this for $57.70. $38.24 profit back into my pocket after fees and postage for this one. And then the fourth and final item that I wanted to share this week was some Thomas trains. Now, I don't usually do Thomas trains. Bulk lot of 16. I picked these up on a little op shop when I was passing by. I did pay $4.50 for this big bundle. And I also got some other things. So this is an average cost of good. I've been able to sell it for $55 and walked away with $33.14 after fees and postage. I don't usually do a lot of trains, but it was an opportunity. They were 90s and I have sold a couple before, so I'm like, why not? Right, so that is what's been selling, some of the top items. Let's actually dive into the numbers for the week. So week 124, we've done 97 sales. Margin, 38%, 0.22 almost. Cost of goods was $669. We have sold over $3,000 worth of stock, so that's $3,102 worth of revenue. And then profit, we've walked away with $1,185. ASP was $31.99, almost $32, and average cycle time was 98 days. So still trying to move stuff that's been sitting around. As you've seen over the last few weeks, my average cycle time does vary anywhere between 70 to 100 days, and that's because I still got a lot of stuff in the shop that's old, but I'm trying to get this as low as possible, because the quicker we can move stuff, the more money we have to go reinvest. That was the whole purpose of this video. Alright, so if you're stuck around this long, let's dive into some show and tell. Alright team, welcome to Monday, and we have lots going out again. So 47 items to go out, and look at this, I just hit 39,000. I've actually been on it for a couple of days yet, but I haven't really been sharing it because I would like to keep that buffer up. This next milestone is 40,000. That's the goal. So we've got quite a bit of clothing going out. This is actually my first pair of jeans, J0001. That was before I was doing the proper skewing system that I've got now, but that's just cool to see that go out. So it took a while, but it's gone. Got lots of media going out. We've got some Lego, we've got clothes, lots of North Face, as you can see. Got a denim jacket. This bad boy, I've had him since I got that video game haul back in October 2021 actually. So that finally sold. I actually had never listed it, so I was clearing out some death piles. Some C.S. Lewis, some Spawn, some Lord of the Rings figurines, and remember him from the Vinnies that I went to with Cameron the other week. So not too bad. So good to see some of the stuff moving pretty quick. We're going to pack this all up, and yeah, I'm pretty excited. It's just another good day, you know. Just yeah, I'm happy. But on to next milestones and next goals. It never ends. All right, team, let's pack it up. All right, team, it is Thursday, and I've been a little bit under the weather for the last couple of days, so bit out of my groove. Bit of a slow start today, didn't even run. But we're here, we're getting this done, and we've got 36 packages going out. Still trying to get above 39. Well, we're above 39. I'm trying to get to the 40, which is the next number now. We're stocking up, filling up here. Just made some more room. All right, let's take you through what we've got going out. Look, I won't go in detail. I actually thought that was ready to go out, but they actually haven't paid. So I bought that here from home because I only just recently processed. That's an Assassin's Creed collector's set thing. So that one's actually not going out, but we've got some media here. We've got a camera going out. This is probably the bolo for the video this week. This one I got for free, and it's gone out for $100. Brad and Jazz, two Aussie thrifters, they had that probably about 8 weeks ago as well. Got a little yo-yo going out here, went for $40. We've got some Robert Jordan, we've got some Country Road, we've got some Thomas, we've got some video games and TV series, George Gently, Newsroom. We've got some action figures in there, and then the rest is just really clothing. I've also got Mary Poppins going out here, and the rest is really just clothing all the way. And that was the Ralph Lauren sweater, wool sweater that's finally sold as well. I think I got 50 or 60 bucks for that. I'm pretty happy with all this. So lots going out, time to get packing, and also my local post office gave me their big bag to start packing that up with, and I'm also working on seeing if they can help me out, and they actually made the offer about maybe picking up stuff from here rather than me bringing it to them. Makes their life a little bit easier too. So that's a good sign. It's a good sign. All right, team, let's get packing and do all the other work that has to be done. Appreciate you. So there you go. The week has been an interesting week. I'm always curious by what's making people slow down, what's making people speed up when it comes to purchasing. Obviously, we have all the economic factors at the moment, but there's different stuff that people are willing to pay up for, and there's different things that people want to bargain for as well. And it's always very interesting. Now, it's a bit different if I've got a repeat customer. I'll help them out. I'll give them some discounts and give them some love. But when it's new customers and their approach on how they go about buying from your store, we need to entertain customers, right? Because customers is what's making us money. So when people are sending offers, and sometimes they might lowball, sometimes they might leave a comment, entertain a conversation. Do reach out a little bit more and say, hey, look, if you want a couple more items, I'm more than happy to combine postage. I did that this week and got an extra 3 sales from one person. So have conversations with these people. We're not a brick and mortar store. It's not easy to literally just say, hey, you, what are you doing? And actually have a conversation. But, do drop them a message. Go out of your time and send them another message and say, hey, look, we see you've bought something, or you've bought something over the last couple of weeks. You're a repeat customer. Would you like to buy a couple of items now, and I'll combine shipping and you'll save some money? Have the conversation. Anyway, this video, really, I hope you've understood it in terms of, we're trying to beat the market. We're trying to actually make sure our money is doing better than just sitting around in the banks or just sitting around in a stock market. We may as well put that money to good work, and if you can beat 5%, that's the way to do it. Appreciate you being here. If you've got any questions, comments, chuck them down below. Otherwise, you have a wonderful day. Cheers.